Esio Trot tells the tale of Mr. Hoppy and his love for Mrs. Silver, who lives in the flat downstairs. Unfortunately, Mrs. Silver only has eyes for her pet tortoise Alfie, who's very, very small, and all she wants is for Alfie to become much, much bigger. At one point, she tells Mr. Hoppy of her dreams for Alfie to become as big as some of these tortoises she's seen photos of, that were big enough for people to sit on their backs. These giant tortoises aren't just part of the world that Roald Dahl created, they're actually real. There are parts of the world where giant tortoises exist, on islands like the Galapagos. So why then are these tortoises so big, yet Alfie remains so small? Well, one reason is island gigantism. This is where creatures living in isolated habitats evolve over time to become giant versions of their mainland counterparts. For most animals, this is due to a lack of predators. If you're an animal that often gets eaten by bigger animals, then it's really helpful to remain small. It means you're more likely to be able to hide and to survive and not be eaten. But if you live in a place that doesn't have any predators, then it's no longer helpful to be small. And the larger individuals of that species will actually survive and pass their genes onto their children, and it will go through generation and generation until gradually the whole species becomes slightly bigger. And over time they become giant versions of themselves. For giant tortoises, it was probably the fact that the larger tortoises could survive long periods of time without water. If you're living on an island that sometimes doesn't have any rain, you want to be able to survive droughts. And actually the bigger you are, the more likely you would be to survive them. But there is another reason why we might only have giant tortoises on islands. There have been the remains of similar sized tortoises found on the mainland in places like South America, Australia and Asia. So why aren't they there today? Well, one theory is that they might have all died. They might have become extinct on these mainland areas and only remain in areas that were remote and hard to reach. Unfortunately for the giant tortoise, the only predator are humans. When Charles Darwin visited the Galapagos Islands, he noted how, for the islanders, these giant tortoises were their main source of food. And it got worse. Sailors going on long journeys would often take live giant tortoises with them as a source of food to eat along the way. Even Charles Darwin did this when he left back to the UK. He took 30 giant tortoises on board his ship and they ate them on the journey back to England. So it's possible then that humans ate all of the giant tortoises that lived on the mainland in areas they could get to. It wasn't just that these giant tortoises were convenient to eat on islands. They've been described as the most edible animal that humans have ever come across. So did we eat all of the giant tortoises in places we could get to easily and leave only the giant tortoises on islands that we didn't reach until later in history? Maybe Mrs. Silver should be quite happy that Alfie remained as a small tortoise, because if he'd been a giant tortoise, his life could have been far more hazardous.
For more Roald Dahl inspired science videos, like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Science Made Simple UK.